I mean, basically, from what I've gotten, it's more like a partnership between the MNO and the MVNO coming together to um, actually penetrate the market. So it's not just
That's
take, I've sold to you, go and do whatever you want with it. So there's a certain level of partnership and investment required from the MNO with the MVNO. But
yes.
looking at what recently came out in the news, right? The NCC suspending suspension of new MVNOs in Nigeria, and one of the things they cited was market saturation and
Mhm.
competition, as reason for the suspension. So, in your view, do you think there were too many MVNO licenses given out? What do you think about what does that mean? Because really, we've not really seen any MVNO take off yet in terms of full market penetration. And then we're already hearing this. Do you think the NCC made a mistake? Do you think the MVNO should be scared right now? Considering all this kind of news that you're hearing from the regulators within the market.
I mean, look, if I was an MVNO license holder, I would be concerned. Well, I'd be concerned that I have so many competitors, right? I'd be
Yes.
concerned. That's one. So that's the angle that I would come at this from. I'd say I have a lot of competitors, and how do I differentiate myself? That's what will be number one on my mind. Not, I won't be obsessed with first mover advantage. I want to talk about that actually because I think first mover advantage is it's a double edged sword. It's not
Yeah.
necessarily the best thing. Um, in terms of, do I think that NCC made a mistake in issuing these licenses? Like I said, they were lobbied. People wanted them. The people had lobbied for them. So I don't know. I only know a handful of the MVNOs, but I don't know what the business cases were that were submitted to the NCC to convince them. I mean, that's not my purview. That's their purview, and they have experts in the NCC that would have assessed each and every single business case on the basis of, okay, this is valid, and of course these business cases exist, and they compare them. So I wouldn't be able to say whether they made a mistake. But all I would say is that nobody would have gotten through the door without something that was viable. The onus is on the entrepreneur, is on the businessman or conglomerate or the group that have bought the license. The onus is on them. Whether it's 43 or 51, it's still a lot. Nigeria is big, right? But how are you going to slice up your area? What's the level of your ambition? I mean, personally, I think that there's going to have to be some sort of the way. You asked me a question at the very beginning, which was, where do I see this going in the long run? And I think there's definitely going to be some consolidation, and there's going to be some more partnerships and collaboration amongst the MVNOs, which is why I said this first mover advantage. I hear through the grapevine here and there that everybody wants to launch first. Launch smart, launch considered. Don't necessarily launch first because you might end up just doing market survey for your competitor, right? You know, um, Yes, now we've seen many examples of it. Do you think Netflix was the first one that came out like that? It wasn't. There was another company. They
No, they
raised 200,
weren't. Yeah.
$200 million, but they just did market survey for Netflix. Anyway, we
Yeah.
won't talk too much about all these things. But so my point is that the MVNOs that have an installed capacity, maybe they have a sister organization that they know they can offload to. They're the ones that are going to really grow because they've got a captive audience. Like a mobile
Hmm.
had a captive audience, Virgin had a captive audience. Those are the two that I know so well because I've worked in all of
Virgin
those
had a
ones. But
captive audience.
yes, they did.
Oh,
I told
really?
you.
Huh.
Yeah, they had customers through Virgin Money, customers through Virgin Atlantic. customers through Virgin Mates, customers through Virgin
Oh,
Cola.
okay.
Yeah,
Oh, that's what you meant. Okay.
they had a Virgin community.
Oh,
So
okay. I get it.
it's so easy. I mean, I fly Virgin. Whenever I'm on Virgin, I get points from my Virgin card. I have a Virgin credit card. And when I get points from it, I use them from air miles. So they create this symbiotic relationship between all the different verticals that they have
Like an
licensed.
ecosystem.
They've created a community. I like the word ecosystem, yes. But ecosystem is more around, and ecosystems are more where one part is enabling another part. Yeah, and I guess you could say
Yeah.
that this is more of a community. There's no real business between Virgin Money, and Virgin Atlantic. But because they're part of the Virgin community, you can do loyalty points and all that. There's Virgin Experience, so that's what they do. So they had a captive audience. Now,
I
of all
see.
the MVNOs here today, of the 43, how many have a captive audience? How many have an installed base? I don't. I know some do. I don't know most. I don't know most. I only know maybe a handful, you know? But I just hope that everybody is being honest with themselves as entrepreneurs. This is not about the NCC, because the NCC didn't put a gun against anybody's head. Oh. You know, they made it available. They made it available, and people applied. That is
Yes,
it.
that's true.
Up from being lobbied to apply. So now that you have secured your license, what's the best way of monetizing this license? What's the best way of getting the best ROI from this license? Being honest with your economics is number one. Making sure you have the right type of technical partner, very, very key, fundamental. And what's your differentiation strategy? And making sure you negotiate a fantastic wholesale agreement. And as I said in TechPoint article,
Yes.
a wholesale agreement is not just about your commercials, because
All
that's
right.
a big, yeah. A lot of people focus on the pricing and the wholesale agreement. There's operational aspects to it as well, very, very key, right? What are the KPIs? What are the SLAs? How is the MNO incentivized to support me? You know, there are many nuances in a relationship of an MVNO and an MNO that are not captured in the contract. Many. So how do you future proof the contract to make sure that you do not find yourself in a very tough situation 2 years down the line? It's common knowledge now, but I was in a court case. I was, well, when not me, but T-Mobile and Virgin Mobile went to court, right, in 2003. I remember I was, anyway, it's all detailed there, but that's because of certain clauses that were not clear. You need to make sure that they're very clear, because, a contract should be, we go through the contract, we sign it, and we put it in the drawer, and it gathers dust. We never have to pick it up. That's the type of relationship that you should have. It's a bit like having a fantastic marriage. You don't every time go and look at your marriage certificate to say, what did we agree? It just works. So
Yeah.
building that relationship at top level, mid level, and bottom level of the MNO, crucial, crucial.
So I mean
I've heard,
that leads me to my
sorry,
okay.
just want to make a point before I forget it. I've heard many people say that, but I've said that, not all the MNOs are going to be jumping over hoops wanting to do this, right? They're going to take a considered approach. I said, but the NCC have mandated it now. You can't lean on that type of narrative. This is the real world. This is business. Just because something's mandated doesn't mean that you don't need to walk in the shoes of the MNO and understand where the shoe is pinching them. That's business
Yes.
intelligence. That's another form of business intelligence, not just BI, data BI. It's like business intelligence.
Yeah. I mean because no what I mean it's just like having them forced to do it. They will just treat you like, I mean, the SEC can't control certain things. They will treat you like a nuisance if your engagement with them is not being profitable. That's the fact, and eventually you will be frustrated out of the market, and out of that relationship. But I think my next question would be, I think picking up from what you said earlier, what are key pitfalls what are key pitfalls that any MVNO license holder should look out for right now? I'm a license holder. I have an MVNO license that was given to me. I'm bothered about competition. You've given us some already. I mean, number one you said was don't try to be the first one out there. Number two you spoke about was try to work with a captive audience, have a very good SLA, that service level agreement, and understand the nuances. So, looking at those nuances, what are the key things that an MVNO should look out for in order to avoid making certain mistakes, especially with our current regulatory environment and market uniqueness?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I think Elijah, I've really touched on them. There's no magic bucket of silver bullets, right? Like I mentioned before, and let me just do a recap. So, I think that for the incumbents MVNOs, the ones that already have the license, they have the license. They have it now. They've paid the money. They have investors. So one of the things that I would say is, if I was an MVNO license holder, I have an investor. Investors in this climate are typically impatient. They want to see quick return. You need to manage your stakeholders very, very well. You need to manage your investors and let them know that the landscape has changed significantly from when we applied for the license. The naira has devalued, um, and there's high inflation. So the models that we had in play, we need to give them a haircut, and the trajectory for profit is going to be pushed out further. So managing expectations is very important for peace of mind, right, and for well-being, because it can be extremely stressful. Taking VC
Yeah,
money is not for the faint-hearted, because you have to deliver, right?
yeah,
And and already and already your base all the assumptions in your business case have been changed have changed, and you haven't even launched. So managing the stakeholders is really, really key. Two, start thinking about collaboration. Start thinking about collaboration. There's 43 MVNOs. There are, I don't know, maybe 10 tier 5s and tier 4s. Let's try and be just logical here and think, if I was an MNO, would I bring on 10 MVNOs, or would I bring on two tier 5s and let the tier 5s aggregate the tier 1s to tier 3s? I think I'll probably do that. So those tier 1s to tier 3s that wants to directly integrate into an MNO, the question I would ask myself is, should you be talking to a tier 4 and tier 5? I think so, because the tier 4 and tier 5s are designed to aggregate. Yeah. So this conversation has to play out, and it is inevitable that it is going to play out, because, like you quite rightly said, it is unlikely. You and I don't have a crystal ball, and we're not the CEOs of the other MNOs, but you and I both know that it's unlikely that each one of them are going to launch 10. It's unlikely.
true. That's true.
I might be completely wrong, but I think it's unlikely. So that collaboration mindset needs to be more prominent than my own better pass my neighbor mindset, right? Don't We have to collaborate. And I'm saying this because I fundamentally do not want the MVNO sector in Nigeria to fail. I just, wanted to. Some people say that, Ernest, you give out too much information. You should charge for this. But, you know, I don't want it to fail. Now that it's started, and sometimes we can inflict wounds on ourselves by not really reading between the lines. So we need to read between the lines, we need to collaborate, we need to engage with each other and find out how we can jointly become sustainable. Maybe even do
Okay,
mergers. I don't know whether mergers are allowed, but that could be one thing. For those that
but
are coming into the market, sorry, I'm just giving you the pitfalls to avoid, right?
yes,
Um,
yes.
are seeking to come into the market, get expert advice, right? Don't get carried away with the headlines, right? Don't get carried away with the headlines. I've been approached quite a few times on LinkedIn, um, saying that, oh, could you please give me the success factors for? I'm thinking of getting a tier 2 license. I'm thinking, first of all, I think they're not issuing any licenses anymore, but maybe they are. But do you know what you're getting into? Do you really understand? The formidable competitors that you're going to go and meet. And remember, it's not 42 competitors, it's actually 46 because the MNOs are still operating, right?
Yeah.
And this is one thing, I need to share this. This is one thing that we discovered at One to One. We launched Virgin Mobile as an MVNO. And every year, for 4 years in a row, when there was the best network, awards, Virgin Mobile beat One to One. How? Do you imagine? Can you imagine how the One to One marketing team felt? So you're competing even with your parents, with
Yeah.
your host, with your landlord. So there's
Yes.
all these nuances need to be considered, right? You can't say, "Oh, it will work out all right on the night." No, because you have investors' money or your own
Hmm.
money. So,
Hmm.
getting a honest opinion and assessment of your business plan today is important. Not what you did before. Today, are the
So
technical partners that you're talking to trying to sell you kit and technology, or are they trying to make sure that you're successful?
you're
Are you
successful. Very
being
important.
yeah? Are you being what's the word? Perceptive enough to understand whether you're being sold kit or whether you're being sold, whether is it a partnership or is it a transaction? Are they partnering with you to be successful or is it transactional? Yeah,
Hmm. Yeah.
because you won't know.
So,
You won't know until 1 year down the line when it's too late.
wow, that's a risky place to be. But I mean, your passion for ensuring MVNOs as success brought to my mind a recent global deal.
Hmm.
Ryan Reynolds recently sold his MVNO Mint Mobile to, I think, T-Mobile. I think they were the ones that got it, for about $600 million or something like that. Do you see those kind of deals happening sometime soon? I mean, an MNO acquiring an MVNO, within our markets, and do you see that as something that would happen as a result of these MVNOs coming into markets?
Okay, so it was 1.35 billion, of which I
Oh,
think
okay, thank you.
he's going to make 300 million himself. They bought
All
two.
right.
I've got the other one. They bought two. Mint Mobile was the one that stood out. I actually wrote a little article on this as well on LinkedIn. Um, and yes, it's a great exit. It's a fantastic exit for them. And but you see, they from the very beginning, the relationship was set. Remember, the best type of acquisitions are acquisitions where when you start with a clear objective as an end goal, right? So remember when Paystack raised, I think, 200 million. They
Yeah.
raised it from Stripe, didn't they?
Yeah, Stripe.
But,
Yeah.
but Stripe were their mentors in bootcamp in Silicon Valley, right? So they always knew that they were the son of Stripe and that Stripe will eventually be acquire them. I'm not saying that they always knew, but they designed themselves to be the perfect bride from the very beginning. Do you understand? Right?
Yes.
Now, there's also I also have interest in the lottery space, and so I follow the lottery space. And there's also a company, an aggregator in the United States called Pocket. They've just been sold to another huge concern for $700 million, right? But they designed themselves from the very beginning with that end goal in mind. So, if you want to be acquired, if you want to exit well, you need to have a marriage partner in mind from the beginning, right?
Hmm.
I think it's very important. It's not just by fluke. These acquisitions that you see are not just by fluke. There was an acquisition in the UK. It was a very small acquisition. An MVNO was bought by another, by no, by an ISP. It was a $20 million deal,
Hmm.
but they've known each other for 15 years. They've been working collaboratively together for 15 years. They knew themselves very well. They were symbiotic. Marriage does not just happen like that. Exit doesn't just happen like that. Unless you have a shareholder in a publicly listed business that has up to 29% of the company and then he wants to launch a hostile takeover. That's different, right? So, to answer your question, is that going to be the case? Can we see this happening in Nigeria? Of course, we can see it happening in Nigeria. Absolutely, we can see it happening in Nigeria because at the end of the day, there will be some MVNOs that are thinking like that. How many, though, I can't tell you because I don't know them all.
Hmm.
But if you want that type of exit, if you want that type of hurrah, what are you doing? You need to be in bed with your future. You have to date before you get married,
Yeah.
right? Have to date before you get married. So if you're not dating, and dating means that we understand ourselves, we know where you're going, we like what you're doing, you're bringing quality customers. Your average revenue per user is 16-20% higher than our average revenue per user. This is the type of business I would like to acquire. Or have you opened up a brand new segment in this very key area, specific area where you brought some extra level of thinking and technology that we haven't done, and we see it growing? For instance, let's say this is just make believe now. Let's say I brought out Metaverse Mobile, and I'm going to go after all the Gen Zs in the Metaverse, right? And then I brought in a gaming element onto it. I'm just talking randomly here, like from plucking things from the air. And then everybody was going crazy over this thing, and people were dating in the Metaverse and blah blah blah. And it was catching fire. That's something that somebody would say, you know what? I better get them while I can get them, but they're cheap. You see? So I don't know. But I think that so it can happen. It would happen in a handful of cases. Very very small hand. You can count them on one hand, maybe on three fingers, self. But but it requires sustained management focus, rigorous. Reynolds that sold, he's a beast. The guy's a beast. He's focused on it. He
Yeah.
knew where he was going. Nobody just randomly falls into $300 million. It doesn't just happen, you know.
At all. Very true.
Yeah, it doesn't just happen. It's hard work. It's honest work. It's forensic work. It's making sure you have the right team in place. You know, here's a challenge for the MVNOs. Who are you going to recruit into your MVNOs? You're going to recruit people that have worked in MNOs, probably. You're going to recruit people that have read about MVNOs,
Hmm.
but you're not going to recruit many people that have worked in MVNOs because it's very few on the ground, right? So, and that's fine. We are where we are, but you need to have a guiding narrative to help you make your decisions. You don't have to take every piece of advice that you're given, but at least let it be known that it was thought provoking. It made you think about, let me. I recently spoke to a venture capitalist, Elijah, around one. I support a lot of startups. You know, you said I wear many hats, so I support a lot of
Yes.
startups, etc. So, on behalf of one of these startups that I'm an investor into, I went to go and see a VC, a Nigerian-based VC, who has invested heavily in one of the leading fintechs in Nigeria, and
Okay.
he listened up. He listened to the pitch. It wasn't a pitch. It was more like, "This is where we are. This is our journey." Blah blah blah. And he said to us, he said, "Do you realize that in order for your business in Nigeria, you need to have hundreds of thousands, millions of customers to make it viable for an external investor to come in? Because the naira is cheap, but our affordability in Nigeria is very, very low." He said, if you took a country like Serbia or Bosnia, where you have maybe 20,000 customers, they have a better average revenue per user than hundreds of thousands of customers in Nigeria. And so the value of your business, in order for it to be exciting to a VC, needs to be huge. You need to have a huge number of customers, millions. So that's another factor to consider in, if you want to exit, what is the real enterprise value of your business in dollars, right? In dollars. Because at the end of the day, that's where the big money is. We don't have the spending
Hmm.
power that they do in. So to make an external investor excited about you in Nigeria, you need to have 20 million customers. You need to have a lot, right? So it just talks to the exit play, right? Your exit play could be to be an incumbent MNO, or it could be to an external MNO that wants to come into Nigeria.
I mean that presents a lot of opportunity for most of the MVNO players. I'm sure right about now you've been getting a lot of a lot of calls and a lot of messages from people like you alluded to on LinkedIn for you to come consult for them or come work with them or invest in them or how they want to start and penetrate the market, right? But if I were asked you to give us your expectations, certain opportunities that you're seeing that you're hoping that the MVNOs will take advantage of in the market? Are there like one or two you could mention that you feel this is a right place that you feel MVNOs can take advantage of, and that you're hoping you see them fight for? Because I mean, I won't lie, I got a bit scared there for an every MVNO when you mentioned that you're actually competing against 46, including the big four. So I mean, I got a bit concerned, right? So are there areas that you feel like this is a virgin area that you think, I think if an MVNO hits here, they would actually hit a sweet spot?
Yes, I really do think that there are some sweet spots. I think that whether uh, I. So here's the thing, I'm more focused on profits and margin as opposed to just volume for volume's sake, right? So I want to know that I have a tribe. I want to know that I have sticky customers. I want to know that there are, that my customers are going to be loyal to me, and there are certain areas that I think I'm an upside down, sideways thinker. I think like a child. I think, why does the rain come? Why doesn't it go up? You have to think crazily to be able to see things, right? So I do see some opportunities. I do see some connections, some collaborations that need to happen. But I'm not going to say them here, because I think that I don't want to inadvertently diverge some of the integrity is extremely important. So I don't want to inadvertently divulge some ideas that some MVNOs are currently working on. But
That's
um,
fine.
yeah, but to be discerning is very important. I mean, I think there's some obvious plays that people can do. But here's the thing. This is what I would say that is encouraging to everybody. There is there's a lot of opportunity for the serious players, really serious players. And when I mean serious, people that want to be honest with themselves. There's lots of opportunities, and there's different ways of differentiating your delivery. Let me just give one nugget. Okay, so Um, Customer care in Nigeria is not the best, right? Imagine if you had the best customer care, standard voice, standard data, best customer care, and you really engage your customers. Do you not think you keep your customers sticky if you differentiate in your customer UX? It doesn't
Mm.
come naturally here, but that could be one area. It won't be the only thing that will make you successful, but you could hold that mantra. That could be your mantra. We've heard certain banks where you say, this bank, it doesn't work, Joe, but this one, it always works. There's a reason why people go to that. And we found that out during that cashless time when we knew that there were lots of fintechs that people started to talk up because they were just good at doing this thing. Your money will enter sharp, sharp if you use these guys. But the other guys, it won't. Do you see? So I think that I think that they just need to look at the landscape, understand different segments of customers. Remember, a banking customer is also a a it's a mobile customer, is also a person that shops at ShopRite, is also a person that enters Danfo. So everybody overlaps all the different segments. The job of the MVNO is to find that common chord between these people and make them sticky to your proposition, which is not just about this is my data price and this is my price. No. What else are you adding to it to make them sticky? There's ideas are bound.
Okay.
Makes sense?
So yeah, I mean, it makes a whole lot of sense, right? So while MVNOs basically are a significant part of your expertise, I would like us to move a little bit from MVNOs, and
Mhm.
I would like to know what are some emerging trends in technology today that you think Nigerian entrepreneurs should be paying attention to.
I mean, one thing I love about Nigeria, a lot of people say that, why are you in Nigeria? You could be anywhere in the world. And what I love about Nigeria is the entrepreneurial spirit. The big thing is AI. I think, but not just AI for AI's sake. I think in how it can actually help enhance your. I'm currently talking to a couple of, I'm mentoring a couple of startups, some in Serbia and in Nigeria, and no investor wants to do anything unless it has an AI element in it. It can help you keep your customer very, very sticky. It can save you costs. So I think that that's going to be an ongoing emerging trend. Um, just for technology and digitization, I think it's definitely the way to go across everything. I'm very passionate about digitization, and if I could digitize food, I would, you know. But that's how keen I am. Now, in terms of sectors, as you know, I'm in the renewable energy sector, and I
Yes.
lead people in Nigeria. And it's been a privilege working with this. I couldn't spell the word solar 4 years ago when I was approached, and it's just been so satisfying how we can change the narrative, change the energy poverty index in Nigeria in our own little way. There's many. In fact, today there's after this there's a investment forum going on right now in Eco Hotel, and so basically, this is an emerging trend. I think if you get power right, ubiquitous power in Nigeria will transform this country, right? And solar has a major role to play. We're never going to be all grid. We're never going to be all solar. We're never going to be all hydro. It's a combination of all of these technologies. But I think that renewable energy is definitely the way to go. I know how many power ACs that we sell. The solar inverters. SMEs are buying them
Yeah.
now. We can't meet up with demand. We can't meet up with demand, right? Because diesel has gone up. Generators are noisy. They create pollution. And but with a solar inverter, 2 kVA or 3 kVA inverter, you can run your AC. You can run your home. You can run your small business. Betting shops, etc. They're buying them, and so at Bbox, this is a real focus for us, and
Mm.
I think that very very nascent. It's very nascent. We're still just scratching the surface. In fact, Elijah, I'll tell you this: all of the competitors in solar energy and renewable energy, we don't really compete against each other. We're very friendly, we're open, because there's so much to be done. So we don't use the word
Hmm.
compete, we use the word we compete, because we support each other if we can, right? There's no, that we're knocking on open doors in most of the cases. So this is a trend that is going to continue. There's a lot more focus on renewable energy. I've got commercial lawyers that are very steep in renewable energy. They're all interested in driving this agenda forward because it's going to be transformational. It's going to be transformational. And of course, it has its own value chain. You have the equipment, you have the intelligence, you have the data that you glean from customer behavior. So there's a whole lot. And I like in my career, if I didn't know this until I looked at my CV one day, and I thought, Ernest, you always seem to go for greenfield sites, brown things that are broken or things that are unproven. And it must mean that I'm drawn to that. I'm drawn to
Yeah.
create disruption. It's just in my DNA. Yeah, I like to know what was achieved from a blank sheet of paper. Yeah,
Hmm.
you know, those are the trends I see happening.
Coming up, I love the fact that you made it based on your industry, and I think I'll actually follow up with you on the energy conversation regarding your consultancy. You focus so much around launching startups to scale. I mean, one of the
Mhm.
keywords is scaling that we've observed about your consultancy. Do you think? Let me make this the question a bit simpler. Do you think Africa has what it takes to build globally scalable products? And should we be thinking about that, or should we focus on building for Africa alone?
Right. Okay. So, just to correct you there, I would like to call myself mentorship as opposed to consultancy. So I don't run a
All right.
consultancy. I mentor and I support and I advise. Right. So now, can we build products for global scale? Elijah, this has been a passion for me for a long time. From the first time when I came across Andela when I was working with BlackBerry, and we went to Andela, and I realized that these guys are building code, writing programs for JP Morgan from,
Hmm.
from Nigeria. We just taking it out of the digital space. We we have demand for palm oil worldwide cannot be met. We used to be the leaders of it. Now Malaysia are. Apparently, Ankara, a demand for it is insane in Brazil. Now, what am
Really?
I saying? Yes. What am I saying? There was a former minister of agriculture. I forgot this guy. He was amazing. I listened to him talk one time, and he told me, he said that, do you know that the demand for lemongrass oil is like, we can't meet it. And we have an abundance of it. We can go from Kano down to Lagos. We can go lemongrass oil. Lemongrass. So, what I'm saying these things because we have no business at all thinking that Nigeria or Africa cannot build global scalable business. How dare anybody say that we can't? Of course we can. Of course we can. There's nothing, you know, the most brilliant family in the United States of America is a Nigerian family. They did their IQ thing. And the same thing in the UK. You can Google it. We are very brilliant, we're very smart, right? Why is it that we are excellent abroad and not excellent at home? So it's the same brain, right? And the same capabilities. What we need in Africa is an enabling environment. That's what we need. We need an enabling environment. And Africans build fantastic apps. They are very creative. Um, and, we're brilliant, right? What we need is we need an enabling environment. We need fantastic mentors. We need great mentorship, leaders that tell them, I love what the Minister of Communications is doing. He just announced recently about the fiber, the new fiber cable that is being laid, you know. and he came from. I actually remember meeting during the CC Hub where Dr. Boston Tijani used to be before, because BlackBerry had a connection with him, and that's how we met. So the thing is,
CC
you probably
Hub.
won't remember. Yeah, CC Hub. Yeah. So the current minister for, I believe if I'm not mistaken, the current minister for telecommunications used to be at the CC Hub in Yaba. Um, Maybe I'm wrong, but anyway, the point is that what he's doing right now is he's creating that enabling environment, right? What the minister for power is doing on power should combine these two ministries. We have data, we have power. Nigeria blows up. Seriously. So with them, we can come up with great technologies. I recently heard that we built our first mobile phone and laptop in Nigeria. Fine, it's phase one. But if we keep on this road, we actually do you know that we're also building solar panels in Nigeria? Yes, solar panels.
Yes, yes, yes,
Something
yes.
very
Yeah, I came
important,
across that.
very important to my to my industry, right? Because importing solar panels is not cheap, right? When you pay all the customs and excise. So why can't we continue to do that, refine it, and then become experts at it? And then let me just refer to one other thing. I'm choosing different industries here. I'm using crops, I'm using clothing, I'm using digital. I'm just trying to buttress the point that we can be global exporters. Of course, we can. Globalization. And there's one final thing. I read in a McKinsey article a few years ago that if we had solar panels spread across the Sahara, right, that will generate enough power to export to Europe to end this energy need from an energy source which is abundant and can never finish sunlight. Think about that. So all we require is is insane thinking, disruptive, creative thinking, an enabling environment, and of course we can become global giants. Absolutely. You feel me?
Yes, I feel you. I feel you. I mean, I think something I really love the way you addressed that question because you actually took it across industries. I actually thought you were going to focus on tech, but it has actually expanded, and I'm sure the audience would have found this very interesting because you broke it down that see, it's not just a tech thing because most people think technology is the only thing that can scale, so they always think tech, but you've broken it down across agriculture, technology, energy, fashion, so there are opportunities actually that exist across industries that you've spoken to that I really, really mind. Anyone that really reads would be excited
Mhm.
to have heard you bring it from that perspective. I mean, even thinking of palm oil, I recently saw the 100 billion naira palm oil deal that they did in Enugu,
There you
recently, and it
go.
was really, 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 really exciting, right? I think for us to begin to close out, right? I'll just ask some light-hearted questions so that we take it down a little.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you're someone that wears many hats, a very intelligent person. I've enjoyed this session, I must say. Um, how do you stay learning? I mean, your schedule is packed. How do you stay learning and top of mind on various trends? What habits have you built that has kept you always sharp?
That's that's a good question. I think for me, um, you know, Elijah, when I break it down, I believe in the mantra that the only man that stops learning is a man that's in a box. He's already in his coffin.
Hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
um, I find that I, I like diversity of opinion. I read crappy newspapers and I read intelligent newspapers. I I love people. I really, really like people. I like the energy of people. You know, when we did all this working from home COVID, I hated it. I hated it. It was okay for the first like 2 weeks. After that, even people in my office know that. Ernest just can't wait to come back to the office because I feed off the energy of people. I need it, right? Because I like
Yes.
to impart my journey, my story to people. So I need people. So when you have these conversations, you can't help but pick up what the narratives are, what people are saying, where the what the mood of the nation is. Like I said, I like people telling me, oh, that can't be done. Oh, once you say that, that's it. So you talked about at the beginning national roaming. It never been done before in Nigeria, right? It was a crazy idea I came up with the MD of Nine Mobile at that time, and we did it. We actually did the trial. It worked. We also did it with Airtel. But certain reasons we couldn't scale it. But so I like trying different things. I need creativity in my it's in my bones, in my DNA. I need to be doing something exciting. I need to be doing something disruptive. So it's more of a personality trait more than anything else. And I teach the same thing to my sons. Some of them are like that. Um, but yeah, I just like, I want Africans to become the kings and queens that they deserve to be. That's probably one of my biggest driving points. I think we're magnificent, and we need to bring that out. We need to bring it out into the world, And so yeah, I have my hands in so many pies, but to me, it's if I'm passionate about it, if I feel that I can add value, if it's digitally orientated, then yeah, I can, I find it easy to move in, and maybe it's experience as well. I'm older than I look, and so I've been around and I've seen different things, and you can almost see how things are going to play out, right? So I like giving people that guiding light sometimes, and yeah, I enjoy it. But everything you do in
Hmm.
the world, everything you do in the world, everything is through people, right? And I like people. So it's just inevitable that I'm going to pick up, even via osmosis, I'll pick up knowledge, understanding, adding value. Doesn't matter which country I'm right. And today there's people that are doing demos, boot camp demos in Serbia, and the World Bank boot camp. You know, I've advised
Hmm.
them. I'm multifaceted, right? And sometimes that's good, sometimes that's bad. But I'm an accountant by training. I only qualified to be an accountant because my mother wanted me to be an accountant. But I hated, I didn't really enjoy accountancy at all. So as soon as I qualified, I posted my certificate to my mother. I said, "You're the one that wanted it to." But accountancy helps me a lot.
Yeah.
The discipline from accountancy is phenomenal. Anybody that did it,
Yeah.
I can tell you the sacrifice you have to go through. So all of this has made me who I am, I guess. You know?
I'm sure you read a lot. I mean, from what you've said.
I'm an avid reader. I read ironically I read a lot of novels, thrillers, because I get a lot of creativity from thrillers. But in terms of from business books, I just really browse the internet. Um, I look for interesting people. I One book I've read is what's it? Thick Face Black Heart. There you go. Thick Face Black Heart is a very interesting book. It's a Chinese philosophy book. I haven't finished reading it. One of the impediments I have is that I never finish reading these self-help books, because once I get the cocoa of the book, that's it. I don't need to
That's
finish.
it. Yeah.
The only books I finished reading are novels, right? Because I need to know what the end is. But when it comes to how to think smart, how Seven Habits of Seven Successful People, all those type of books, there's lots of them, right? I surf, I snippet to them, I take cocoa, I take nuggets from them and weave it into my personality, and then that's how I learn, and that's how I get ideas. You know. I think a good book to read is the Bible as well. I think it's very good. Certain Psalms and Proverbs, they're always very helpful for when you have those stormy moments. I know people might find that strange, but yeah, I mean, I talk to people. I like talking, discussing, writing articles, writing down what I observe, because we're all very very brilliant bright, clever people. We just need to find our space in the world and then, right, put yourself out there, make it happen, be relevant to the universe, you know? So, yeah, that's what I'd say.
Wow. Wow. Thank you so much,
And that's why you're
Mr. Ernest.
that's why you're doing what you're doing,
Yeah,
Elijah. Very well. I love it.
you are, I'll say you caught me right there. You caught me right there. Right. That's actually why I'm doing what I'm doing. You caught me right there. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm a curious mind and I love learning by conversation, and whatever interests me and I feel like would interest a lot of people too, I try to see how we could document it through podcast, because I know a lot of people will not read, so well, at least they will watch a video. As a matter of fact, one of the guests I brought on the podcast recently has been sending me messages saying he has been getting a lot of messages from people, who watch the podcast, and they are just that he thinks he needs to start producing more podcasts. I say, well, that was the purpose, right? And I think he was able to even make
Yes.
some connections with some
Mm.
people that he's going to do some partnerships with. So I hope that goes well for him. But I mean, that's the
Good.
purpose of the podcast, right? For people to watch it. People watch from South Africa and different countries. Really, I get messages all the time. But I'm very, very excited that we're able to build such a platform. And I think for you to have given me almost 2 hours of your time today, I must say I'm very grateful. On behalf of everyone watching this channel, we are very grateful for your time and for your wisdom, sharing your wisdom with us so freely and with so much energy. Your energy never went down for any minute. So I'm very grateful for that also.
Elijah,
Uh,
I'm astonished that we spent 2 hours. I didn't know. I'm actually late for a meeting. I
well,
didn't know. That's wow. I,
I
oh,
all
wow.
right. So
They're looking for me.
I owe you dinner anytime you come to Abuja, or even when I come to Lagos, I'll come look for you. To make it up to you. I'm so grateful for your time.
Sure.
Thank you so
Yes.
much. Do enjoy the rest of your day.
Cheers.